Hello, kidney warriors. Oh, my voice went a little high right there. Oh, it's been a long week so far, and I've been using my voice quite a bit. But hello, kidney warriors. James here from Dadvice TV, your online kidney health coach, and this is Dadvice TV Live. Now, it's the first Tuesday of the month, and you know what that means. That means we have renal dietitian Jen Hernandez here live doing an Ask Me Anything. So if you have questions about the kidney diet, and there's always tons of questions. As a matter of fact, I have one from the comments earlier that you guys have asked that I'm going to give to Jen once she's on here to answer for you guys. This is a great place to get real information. The internet is full of so much misinformation, and you need to make sure you go to a good source to get information. Now, before I bring Jen on, I want to let you guys know, remember last month, she mentioned her book was coming out. Well, guess what? It's on Amazon. And I got a quick link that can take you right to it on Amazon. Go to dadvicetv.com/Jen. That will take you right to the Amazon page. You can get the Kindle version if you like to have an ebook that you take with you and read, or do like I did and order the big giant color printed version. I just ordered mine right before this broadcast, and I can't wait for it to arrive. All right, so let's go ahead and let's jump right into the good stuff. Welcome, renal dietitian Jen Hernandez from Plant Powered Kidneys. Hey, Jen, how you doing?
Hi, James. Wow, I was not expecting you to do that. Thank you so much. It has, like you said, it's been, what a week, and it is my birthday. So it's been a really crazy day, and I'm probably going to be at a loss for words at times because it is an emotional day. Not necessarily because it's my birthday, but because I finally have my book out, like James said. Um, yeah. So if you ever watch like a live Q&A with me, or, if you do you notice sometimes I get emotional because this is my world, is chronic kidney disease. And here it already starts. Bringing this out into making it something accessible for people to get is just, it's been a goal. It's been a dream. And I did have a dream about this about a year ago, of making a book, and it came true. And it was hard work, and I put a lot of time and a lot of energy into this. But to see that it's out now is absolutely incredible. And I'm so excited. If you get emails from us at Plant Powered Kidneys, you may have seen I sent out a sample chapter. I think it was just a couple days ago, yesterday. I just sent it out, and we already had great feedback just from that chapter alone. People getting a little glimpse. We've had great feedback from people. Sorry, James, this is not my typical hi, everybody.
No,
This is me.
go ahead, go ahead. I'm getting the messages up on the screen.
But yeah, this has just been something that I'm incredibly proud of, and really, really excited for more people to get access to, so they have something. Because one of the things that I actually found when I first started this book writing process early in was, when I was doing my research to see what was out there, there was only one other book I found that was written by a renal dietitian. And so it just felt like we needed some more authority in this space to help people. And there's a lot of renal cookbooks, and James, you have your books out there. Like there's a lot of resources. But I just wanted to provide people with another trusted resource of something that is not like this is my story with kidney disease, but more so like, this is me as a renal dietitian. This is me I've been a renal dietitian for over 10 years, 13 years now going on. Yeah. And so I just wanted to make sure that I got something out there that people could feel really comfortable and confident in using as a resource for themselves, and to see that there's a lot of research and a lot of evidence to support nutrition with chronic kidney disease. So a lot of people will say when when they talk with their doctor about kidney disease and their doctor says, especially like stage 3, I get this a lot in stage 3. Their doctor says, oh, your diet doesn't matter. Don't even worry about it right now because you can take care of it in dialysis. And it's just this huge assumption of, number one, they didn't even ask any nutrition questions to find out what's going on dietarily, but they just wrote it off to say your diet doesn't matter. How do you say that without even knowing what's going on? And then secondly, making the assumption that they're going to automatically end up in dialysis. So a lot of people have just said like they don't feel heard. And so I want this to be a resource that they can also bring to their doctor's appointments and to say, hey, this is from a renal dietitian, and here's some outlines, and here's some guidelines, and here's some protein calculations. So where can we go from here based off of this information? And so I'm just, I can't believe it. I really can't.
Well, I'll tell you, I started looking at the first chapter. I do not have it here, but I was looking at it online on Amazon because you got like the table of contents. So you can kind of look at it. And I absolutely loved that you had it in the beginning. Here's, it's not just this is stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you had the average EGFRs for age groups, because there's so many people that are older and they don't realize, oh yeah, my GFR isn't perfect, but that's normal. They may be in a normal range, and that could relieve so much stress and worry from them right off the bat. That was like the second page or something like that. It was right at the very beginning. That's what I loved about the stuff that I saw so far, was I was like, oh, it's like talking to you. It's calming, and you don't feel scared. Where the doctors and people were talking about it in the messages earlier today. I was a bit active on social media. So many of the doctors are just, we're just gonna wait. Dialysis is there to catch you. And it doesn't feel like a lot of times the doctors are helping you to be proactive as a member of your care. And it's you. You're the one that wants to be the most proactive. So I can't wait to get the book and read through it. And there are lots of happy birthday wishes in the comments, just to let you know.
Oh, that's so sweet, you guys. That's so sweet. Thank you so much, really. I did think like, well, maybe, it is my birthday. Maybe I should reschedule this for a different day. It's like, no, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. Like,
I'm
this
glad
is
you did, because I had these balloons here ready for you. And I was trying to figure out, how can I put the balloons on Jen's camera without her letting me access it or something? And I couldn't figure it out, but I got them here on mine.
Hey, it still counts. We're in a party. So
Yeah,
it's
there
great.
you go.
Yeah.
Now, to help get us into the questions, one question that I even already see it here today, but a lot of people asked about protein. There's so much confusion about protein. And today, you walk down the grocery aisle, everything, it seems like, is screaming protein, protein, protein. It's the fad today that seems to sell stuff. I remember when it was fat-free. Everything was fat-free. Yeah, they just jacked up the sugar. And they're like, yeah, it still tastes great. It's fat-free until you eat it. Then it turns into fat. But can you talk about protein? How much should a person, because I don't want people to be scared and to think no protein and overdo it by going too low. We also don't want them to go too far with protein, especially since they have kidney issues.
Yes, absolutely. And this is a conversation that will continue to be had because it is very confusing. And like you said, the general public is just so hyped up on protein right now. I saw like there was protein sodas, and there was somebody I saw on Instagram, somebody was talking about protein seasoning, like spices with protein in it. Like, what is this? But you know what? This is just further proof of how we can just ignore a lot of these marketing things. So with chronic kidney disease, yes, protein is harder for the kidneys to handle, but it's not something that your body shouldn't have. That's the challenge, is that your body still needs the protein, but it's how much can your kidneys handle. With chronic kidney disease, as it progresses, it gets harder for the kidneys to handle it, and more of the protein waste builds up in the blood. So that's why, like, later stages, stage 4, stage 5, they might need lower protein. But in like stage 3, in these earlier stages, we're not looking for cutting back. Technically, we're not looking for cutting back on protein in earlier stages, but with all of the marketing, all of the hype around protein, not to mention how much people typically eat, the normal recommended guideline of 0.8 grams per kilogram of protein feels wild. It feels like a big protein cut, because what people are so used to eating and having all the time. Like, you think about, you go out to a restaurant, you get like a steak, you're not getting a 3-ounce or a 4-ounce steak. I've seen, like, the smallest I've seen is like 7 ounces, but traditionally they're more like 12, 16 ounces. That is a lot of protein. And so the restaurants and they push the protein too. The portions are really emphasizing protein. So again, when we focus on 0.8 grams per kilogram of your weight, that is a normal recommendation for protein for the general population. And the guidelines say in earlier stages, let's just focus on 0.8 grams per kilogram. Now, in the case, like I mentioned, with later stages and lower protein, there are recommendations to say, in some cases, going down to like 0.6 grams of protein, 0.6 grams of protein per kilogram might be beneficial, but it's not for everybody. For example, if you are somebody with stage 4 kidney disease and you also have diabetes and your blood sugars are a little uncontrolled and things are kind of scary there, that is not the time to cut down on protein. Sticking to that 0.8 is probably a better goal to help with your blood sugar control as well. It's not going to be beneficial to drop down to a lower protein diet in that example, because your body is not metabolically stable. Another example would be if you went to the hospital recently and, unfortunately, the holiday season, there can be a little bit of an uprise in hospitalizations for people who are ill. So for multiple reasons. But if you have recently been hospitalized, cutting back on protein is not the time, because your body is trying to repair and recover. So again, there's situations where it's not going to be helpful to cut down, even though I know, just like you hear a lot about high protein diets all over the place, I know people with kidney disease often hear a lot about low protein diets and how that's the answer. But I really can't stress this enough. And that's why I have a whole chapter in the book dedicated to protein, is focusing on, okay, this is what we're really looking at, but here are the situations, here are the examples of, where that wouldn't be right, or here's some examples of what you could do instead, and giving you ideas of kind of like calculating and going off of all of that. But it really, I almost always, with people, start with 0.8 grams per kilogram. I don't want to drop them lower if I don't have to. And that alone, they oftentimes are eating a little bit less protein. And then I just focus on making more of their protein coming from plants over animals. Not that you have to eliminate animal proteins entirely, but animal proteins are much more rich in protein. So it's just easier to hit that goal, that protein goal, much more quickly. So we can fold in more nutrition. We can fold in more things like fiber and other minerals and vitamins with plant proteins as well. And you can usually get a bigger volume with those options, which is one of the reasons why it can be helpful to include some plant proteins. But if you want to include some animal proteins, that's really more likely than not, that's okay. It's just a matter of kind of that portion control. So that was a whole big speech on protein, but hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Now, there are several questions that are all related to the same thing about the renal diet and using a dietitian. Now, those of you who have followed me for a long time know that the number one best recommendation I give everyone is work with a dietitian. They are going to teach you how to eat, how to not be afraid of what you eat, how to fit the things you like in your diet. But Jen, a lot of people are asking things like, one person says, hey, my doctor says my kidney disease is from medication. Do I need to follow a kidney diet? Can you talk a bit about the kidney diet and the importance of and benefits of working with a dietitian?
Yes, there are a lot of different causes for kidney disease. Medication is definitely one of them. The top two causes are blood pressure issues or blood sugar issues, like type 2 diabetes, having high blood sugars there. But again, there's a lot of other causes and situations that go on. So while it is really helpful to find out the root cause, depending on what that root cause is, we may or may not be able to address it from like a dietary or any kind of intervention. So in the case of medications, there's not a whole lot we can do to kind of help control that moving forward, besides, you as the patient, just like being careful with your medications, following your doctor with the prescriptions that are best and safest for you. For me, let's say you are somebody with stage 3B kidney disease and it was caused by medications. Like, I'm glad we know the medication part. I'm still going to be looking at your blood pressure. I'm still going to be looking at your blood sugars, because just like those two things can cause kidney disease, kidney damage can also cause high blood pressure and poor blood sugar control. So it's kind of you got to look at it from both sides. But there's still a lot of impact, because the bottom line is, if you have a diagnosis of chronic kidney disease, regardless of the cause, there is still something you can do dietarily. And that's why I don't like when doctors automatically say there's nothing for you to do with your diet, because they don't even know what you're eating. They don't even know what's going on. And everybody, there's always a benefit. There's always something that can be changed and improved. I find usually it's a matter of adding more things in, whether it's adding more potassium into the diet or adding more fiber in, getting in more plants in general for other nutrients, like making sure there's enough magnesium or calcium, or even getting a good amount of phosphorus in. That can be really helpful too. So there's always something going on, which is why I will always disagree when somebody says, oh, my doctor says diet won't matter. Like, unless they did a full nutrition assessment with you, which I know for a fact they don't, because you see your doctor for about 7 minutes. My initial nutrition assessment with somebody takes about 90 minutes. So, and that's just the first session. So I know for a fact that they did not do a nutrition assessment to determine that you don't need or you couldn't benefit from something. So yes, absolutely working with the dietitian in any capacity. We have a lot of people who take Kidney Wellness Academy. That's my program. That's what I teach. And we have people taking that class. They do our Q&As, and then they have their own private dietitian. So they're getting a ton of support from us. And then we're saying, okay, here's some questions you can follow up with your own dietitian. Then their dietitian is supported, because they're like, I get to bypass all of this like basic education stuff. And they come in, they say their students or their clients come in with all of this knowledge about the renal diet. And they're like, we just got to hit the ground running. It was just so much easier. And so if you're using insurance, you only get so many hours per year with the dietitian, more likely than not, unless they can find coding, they can find other ways to get you in longer. But like for Medicare, 3 hours per year is the standard. So, you find more support, you find more resources that you trust and that you can utilize in tandem with that. And then you have your dietitian and you're golden. Like, you are set.
All right, very good. We got quite a few comments here. Now, we have a couple people asking the title of your book. So I'm going to bring that animation back up, because that shows the cover of your book.
Yes.
Yeah, plant-powered kidney nutrition. If you go to Amazon and you search Jen Hernandez, it comes up number one, the first thing. Makes it so much easier. Plus, I have a short link I created, go.dadvicetv.com/Jen, that will take you straight to Jen's page on Amazon, where you can order the Kindle version or the full color printed version. So hopefully that helps those that are looking for the name of your book. All right, let me go back through the questions, unless you see any that are there. We have lots
I
of
did see
hellos.
one that popped up about transplant. He was asking about protein.
Yes, there we go. After transplant, can we eat beef and pork, or should we stick to fish and chicken with fruit and veggies?
Which I think is a great question, because there are a lot of there's a lot of fears around transplant, and they're like the diet and what kind of comes after that. But the good thing is that when you get a kidney transplant, you're getting that extra kidney filtration back. You're getting that ability for the kidneys to filter things. So I am always, always, always going to be a fan of saying yes as much as possible. I want to make sure we can include as much variety wherever we're at. So the first thing I'll say is, more likely than not, yes, you can include red meat like beef and pork. Those are potentially safe options. Again, it would still factor into your protein. And the protein you're still going to have with a transplant, you'll probably still have a stage, a CKD stage. It's just that transplant factor is kind of added in there. So yes, you have, and I've had clients who've gone from like a GFR of 5 or 3, and then they got a kidney transplant and their GFR is in the 90s. And so they have that function, they get that flexibility where their kidney's able to process the proteins and to take more on. And I have also a blog article all about the kidney transplant diet. So if you have more questions about a kidney transplant, like if you're curious what the diet looks like, or if you're kind of going through that transplant process, go to the Plant Powered Kidneys blog, because I have a whole article that covers all the big topics around transplant diet. But I wanted to catch that to say, like, yes, that is absolutely a possibility to include those proteins. And I wouldn't make those your primary proteins. Definitely fish and chicken are going to be some better lean protein options. But, if you have beef or pork, like once or twice a week, that's going to be completely manageable.
All right, here is a good question. All right, here's someone. What advice would you give to someone with diabetes and CKD? Now, they sound kind of like me when I was first diagnosed. Fruits and legumes spike their blood sugar, and eating a plant-based diet just doesn't seem to do it for them. They use Mrs. Dash, which is now called Dash, and other spices, but they kind of feel they're missing taste. And this is one of the things that I also had a challenge with, which your Facebook group is fantastic for helping with. Just to plug that real quick right here.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, the group is wildly supportive, and it's such a great group. Um, Yeah, so this is a great question, and it kind of ties back into what I was talking a little bit earlier about the protein situation. So, in again, an example where you have both diabetes and kidney disease, a low protein diet's not necessarily going to be beneficial, which means you do have a little bit more flexibility with your protein. And again, this is also to say, let's say I'm going to pull arbitrary numbers out there, okay? Just to give an example. But let's say you have a daily protein goal of like 45 grams or 50 grams, let's say. You can fit in a little bit of, chicken or fish or even beef. About 1 ounce is about 7 grams. So, you fit in a couple ounces, and yeah, it might be a little bit less than what you are historically used to. But in this transition, when you're working on having a diet that maybe is focused on things that you're not used to, it's good to have something that you are really familiar with and really comfortable with and you like, and just adding like one new ingredient or one new thing into that meal to like try something different. But ultimately you still have foods that you enjoy. And that's another point of just saying, like, I created plant powered kidneys. I didn't create vegan kidneys, meaning it's not about cutting out all animal proteins. It's about adding in more plants. And all that to say as well, that you don't have to have every single plant. Like, James, we're not gonna worry about mushrooms for you. That's not a big deal, because there's so many other vegetables that you like, right? Like that's not a
Exactly.
concern.
And there were things that I learned that when you cook them a certain way,
Yeah,
taste different. For example, radishes in the air fryer is an amazing replacement, believe it or not, everybody, for potatoes. You take the little radishes and you slice them so they're
mm,
kind of floured up. You throw them in the air fryer. I now put spices and things, all sorts of spices on them. And it is amazing how it just changes them. It's like magic. And I learned that from you in the group. There's so many things, and I still need to try cooking a mushroom correctly and eating it. But I have learned so much. When I started, the only veggies I got were toppings on a hamburger. That was it.
mm,
But now I am like veggie heavy. I
yeah.
start out with the veggies, fill up with fill my plate up with those. And then I look for other things to add to fill in the gaps. And that's usually where I'll go a lot for chicken. And then I get a little crazy with the desserts. I have a sweet tooth. Earlier today, my daughter and I found out, we went to a place and it had some amazing tiramisu.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
great though.
I didn't overdo too much, but it was so good. I'm like, how often am I going to get something this delicious? I'm going to enjoy it. But
Exactly.
I don't have to worry. I'm not, upset with myself. I enjoyed it. And I'll
Yeah.
just, I eat plant-based, I eat healthier otherwise, and it's okay. It works itself out.
Yeah, exactly. And you have a little bit and you get to move on with your life. You don't just like, you don't have that urge of having sugar. And people do it all the time, like with and without kidney disease. You're like, oh, I need something sweet, let me try to have like a banana, or okay, let me try some, I don't know, like some cereal, or let me try this. Like you keep eating things to like try to satisfy that. You're like, you know what, if you just had a cookie, if you just had a little ice cream, like you probably wouldn't have had it so much, and you wouldn't have eaten all that other stuff that you were
Hmm.
like trying to satisfy that craving with. So there is 99.9% of times there's no reason to say we can't have something. It's just a matter of like, okay, you want to have this, enjoy it and move on. Let's carry on with life.
Yeah, it's not overdoing it. Now, my
Yeah.
good friend Lisa Baxter, who's very prominent in helping promote care for kidney patients, she's been to DC, she's done lots of stuff. She asked, what do you recommend, or what type of diet do you recommend, any certain type, for people who have PKD, polycystic kidney disease?
Yes. And so, yeah, this is another one of those situations where, when we find out what's going on with the kidneys, what's causing the damage, then we can kind of reverse engineer, like, how are we going to focus on this? So there are a couple things with polycystic kidney disease that are important to focus on. Number one is sodium. So research has shown that a low sodium diet is really, really powerful to support PKD people and to prevent the cysts in the kidneys from growing faster. So sticking to a low sodium diet is very, very helpful. Now, another part very similar to that, which almost sounds like it's counterintuitive in a way, but hydrating, drinking plenty of water actually helps prevent the cysts from growing as well. So those are two really big things, like right off the bat for PKD, that I like to focus on. And then the other one is also still protein. Again, it's not about getting rid of animal protein, but it's keeping to a normal protein guideline to start, focusing on more plants and including that as part of that protein goal for the day. So just including more variety from plants in the protein goal. Those are some of the biggest ones. Other than that, like potassium, with everybody with kidney disease, potassium goals are going to be based off of labs, and a high potassium blood draw doesn't automatically mean a low potassium diet. It means investigation needs to be done. But if you see some things going on there and you and your doctor rule out the non-dietary causes of high potassium, then temporarily a low potassium diet might be needed. I really want to stress this because, some people think like, oh, I have a high blood potassium. Like I had a client who had high potassium levels like 5 years ago, and he had been on a low potassium diet ever since. And when we started working together, and I was like, we got to get you eating more potassium. And he was kind of nervous at first, but we got to the point where he was eating potatoes almost every single day, and his potassium levels were totally fine. Totally fine. It turns out that high potassium he had years ago was not related to his diet. We saw some other things in his lab work that suggested that it wasn't what he was eating. It was the kidney disease. It was his blood sugars. There were other things not having to do with potassium in his food. So I always like to emphasize that point, because people think, oh, kidney disease, no more potatoes, no more bananas, no more anything ever, ever, ever. No. Even if you do have a medically ordered low potassium diet, it is not necessarily a forever thing. So please keep that in mind.
Very good. Now, here's a question that's been asked a couple times. Every dawn says, my high proteinuria has increased and my EGFR has gone down to about 18%. From a plant-based diet perspective, are there any proactive food changes you'd recommend for her?
Yeah, so proteinuria, that's the protein leaking in the urine. And this is, again, kind of thinking backwards of what's really going on here. So when there's protein leaking, that's the sign that there's damage. And without having more information here, some of the things that I would be asking about and looking into And what I would suggest that you talk with your doctor about is looking at blood pressure really closely and blood pressure medications, because usually doctors can prescribe certain medications that help with proteinuria. And along with those medications comes a low sodium diet. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I don't add salt to my food and it's fine. But that's not where salt is coming from. Salt is coming from the packaged foods that we eat. Some of the things I think people really tend to forget about are breads, tortillas, rolls, like some of the like bakery kind of things. Those can have a ton. They can have a ton of sodium in there, but a low sodium diet is really, really helpful and very important with the proteinuria, especially if you're on medication that is supposed to be helping that proteinuria. The medication won't be as effective if you're not following a low sodium diet. So I would definitely be looking at that. And one of the things that I also recommend in these cases is doing like a little bit of food journaling. This is something that we've talked about in past videos. And I teach a free class all about this too, is really understanding what food journaling does, the things that you can do related to CKD and the renal diet that will show you, it'll give you really, really good insight. And it's not something you have to do every day. I think it's really great to like spend an afternoon and just kind of put in some things that you typically eat, like put in your most like favorite meals with your go-to brands, be as detailed as you can so that you get some numbers to say like, this is what I'm typically getting. And then you can talk with your doctor, ideally a dietitian, but you can kind of dig more into that with them when you have those details and that information. And that's, again, I really do encourage this, because when people think low sodium diet, they think, oh, I don't add salt, and that's it. But you got to go deeper than that. And then even in some cases, I still have clients that I'm encouraging them to add salt to their food. Like they're not putting anything, and salt is still an electrolyte that's still important for our bodies. So again, it's not a matter of going down to like zero. It's what is right for your body. What is your body telling you? What are your labs telling you? What are your vitals telling you? You got to take all those things into consideration for what works best for you.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, looking at sodium on the labels is the number one thing I do, because I keep my blood pressure in check. And it's sneaky, especially the things that you think are healthy, like a plant-based meat alternative. Woo! Some of those are really, really loaded up.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We are out of time.
Let me do one more question.
Okay, sure. Which one?
Because it's my birthday and I get to have what I want.
Oh, go ahead. We're happy to have you as long as you want to stay.
Well, my husband's probably like, hey, we have dinner reservations. You got to go. But it's okay. It's fine. We're fine. Okay. I just saw one pop up. It said, I only eat plant. And I'm going to kind of make a little bit of jump here, but I think this is an important question. I only eat plant 10 grams of protein. So I'm guessing plant protein, 10 grams of protein a day. So they're really, really low protein. And the creatinine is still high. GFR is not going up. What is going on? And this is a great example. I'm sorry, Care. This is an example of one of those things where low doesn't mean better. Okay. Because what happens is when you're cutting out so much, I can almost guarantee you that you are not eating enough, period. And when you are not eating enough, your body is not in a good state of mind. Your body is not able to do the things that it's doing. So it's kind of going on fumes. It's running on fumes. It's doing what it can. And that also means that the kidneys aren't able to do what they're going to do. So if you do need a low protein diet, again, make sure it is medically supervised, ideally with a dietitian, because doctors don't have the time or the knowledge to dive into the low protein diet. But if you're doing that, make sure it's medically supervised, and really, really important, again, make sure you're eating enough, period, enough calories. Most of us are not eating enough calories. We grew up in a diet culture. We grew up with Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and, all the, you talked about the fat-free stuff. So we grew up in a whole food system that said low calorie is good, but you deserve to eat. Your body deserves the energy. Your body deserves the calories it needs. It needs this. People with kidney disease need calories. And that's a big thing I talk about in the book too, is you got to eat. You can't be cutting things out and not eating, because your body will look for this one way or another. And that means breaking down your muscles. That means looking for this stuff. And that's why a lot of people say, I'm losing weight. I'm not trying to lose weight. I don't want to lose weight, but I'm losing weight. You got to eat more. Okay. So I wanted to grab that because I think that's another really important thing to highlight.
Yep. And breaking down muscle means creatinine in your blood, so it will lower your EGFR. Um, so you don't want to get malnourished where your body's, using your own muscle for energy, because then that'll just raise the creatinine, which lowers your EGFR. All
Yeah.
right, Jen, we've got when we do the closing screen, we'll have all the thank you and all the happy birthday wishes. There are lots of them, but I want to quickly remind everyone about your brand new book that's out on Amazon, Plant Powered Kidney Nutrition. It's a fantastic book. It's in color, which I love that. I saw images that are in there and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can go to Amazon, search for Plant Powered Kidney Nutrition. It'll come up. I also have a quick link right there, go.dadvicetv.com/Jen. That will take you straight to Amazon to her book, where you can order your own color print version, or if you've got a Kindle you like, or the Kindle app on your iPad, you can download the ebook version to take it with you and have an electronic version. All right, Jen, this is always a pleasure to have you here. Always helpful and educational. And I will be back, everybody, next Tuesday, November 11th at 7 p.m. Still working exactly who and what the topic will be, but it will be about kidney diet stuff. All right. So thank you again, Jen, for being here. And I'll see all of you in the next video. And happy birthday again, Jen.
Thank you.